Commander Jake Morrison floated in the control room of Guardian 1, watching the endless stream of data flow across his screens. The orbital defense platform had been his home for 6 months now, and he knew every beep and flash of the monitoring systems. Earth spun slowly below him, a blue marble covered in swirling white clouds. From up here, the planet looked peaceful. But Jake knew better. For the past 3 days, something had been wrong. The communications grid that normally buzzed with constant activity was showing gaps. Small ones at first, then bigger holes in the network. Jake had reported it twice already, but his supervisors told him it was probably just equipment failures. Normal wear and tear. They said Jake did not think it was normal at all. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez sat in the deep underground bunker of NORAD, staring at her computer screen with growing worry. The night shift was usually quiet, but tonight felt different. Her job was to monitor all the military communication stations across North America, and 3 more had just gone dark. Not broken, not damaged, just silent. Amy pulled up the maintenance logs for each station. Everything showed green. The equipment was working perfectly. The power was on. The antennas were fine. But no signals were going out, and none were coming in. It was like someone had simply turned off a switch. She picked up her phone and called Director Paul Henderson at his home. It was past midnight. But this could not wait. "Sir, we have a problem," Amy said when Paul answered. 7 stations have gone quiet in the last 72 hours. All of them are showing normal operations, but they are not transmitting anything. Paul was quiet for a long moment. "I will be there in 30 minutes. Do not contact anyone else about this until I arrive." Far beyond Earth, in a hidden base built into a large asteroid, Science Officer Kethval studied his instruments with growing alarm. His species, the Zephyrians, had been watching Earth for over 100 years. They had seen the humans grow from using simple radio waves to complex digital networks. The electromagnetic noise from Earth had become as familiar as breathing. But now that noise was fading. Kethval called his superior on the communication system. "Commander, I need to show you something. The human homeworld is changing its transmission patterns." Commander Vextar arrived within minutes. The Zephyrians were tall, thin beings with large eyes that could see many different types of light. Vextar looked at the data displays and felt his heart skip a beat. "How long has this been happening?" he asked. 3 of their days, Kethval replied. "At first, I thought it was equipment failure on their part. Humans often have technical problems, but this is too organized, too systematic." Vextar studied the patterns. The humans were not randomly losing their communication systems. The outages were spreading in a careful pattern, starting from their most remote locations and moving inward. It looked like ... like they were deliberately going silent. "Send a priority message to the High Command," Vextar ordered. "Tell them the humans are exhibiting unexpected behavior." Captain Lisa Barnes stood on the deck of the research vessel Atlantic Explorer, watching her dive team prepare their equipment. The ship was positioned over one of the deep ocean communication arrays that connected the continents. 3 days ago, the array had stopped responding to signals from the mainland. "Depth is 2,000 meters, reported her diving specialist, Pete Johnson. "We should reach the array in about 20 minutes. Lisa had commanded ocean research missions for 15 years. She had seen equipment fail in many ways, but this situation felt different. The array was not sending any distress signals. It was not asking for help or reporting problems. It had simply stopped talking. "Captain," called her communications officer from the bridge, "I am getting reports from other research vessels. The Pacific Array went dark 2 hours ago. The Indian Ocean installation stopped transmitting this morning." Lisa felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ocean air. One array going silent was unusual. 3 or 4 could be explained as coincidence. But when installations around the world started failing in sequence, it meant something else was happening. "Pete, I want a full inspection of that array," she called down to the dive team. "Check everything. Power systems, computers, antennas, everything." 40 minutes later, Pete's voice came through the underwater communication system. "Captain, this is impossible. The array is perfect. Every system is working exactly as it should, but someone has programmed it to stop transmitting." The shutdown command came from inside the system. Lisa stared at the ocean. Someone with access to Earth's most secure communication networks was systematically shutting them down. But who? And why? In the Vorthik military headquarters, located on a planet 12 light years from Earth, General Thaxmer reviewed the intelligence reports with growing concern. The Vorthik Empire had been studying humans for decades, planning their approach. For first contact, humans were interesting creatures, violent but innovative, divided but capable of cooperation when threatened. The Vorthiks had decided that humans would make good allies if approached correctly. But the recent changes in human behavior were troubling. "Their military communications are still active," reported Intelligence Officer Drexpan. "But their civilian networks are going dark in a coordinated pattern. This suggests either internal conflict or preparation for some kind of major change." General Thaxmer clicked his claws thoughtfully. The Vorthiks were warriors, but they were not fools. They had survived for thousands of years by being careful and observant. The humans were acting like a species preparing for war, but there were no signs of internal fighting. "Double our surveillance," he ordered. "I want to know everything that is happening on Earth. If the humans are preparing for something, we need to understand what it is." Dr. Carl Watson sat in his office at the Emergency Broadcast System headquarters, looking at reports that made no sense. As the head of the system that would warn Americans about national emergencies, he had access to communication data from across the country. The pattern was clear now, starting from the most remote military bases and research stations. Earth's communication networks were being systematically shut down, not destroyed, not hacked in any way that his experts could detect. Simply turned off by someone who knew exactly how to do it. Carl picked up his secure phone and called the Pentagon. This was beyond his authority to handle alone. "General Hudson, this is Dr. Watson at EBS. We have a serious situation. Someone is shutting down our communication networks in a coordinated pattern. I need to brief you immediately." Colonel Steve Harris landed his helicopter at the Puerto Rico research facility just as the sun was setting. The massive radio telescope, a ray spread out before him like a field of giant flowers, all pointing toward the sky. This facility was one of the most important in the world for communicating with spacecraft and listening for signals from space. But like so many others, it had gone silent. Harris met with the facility director, Dr. Susan Clark. "Colonel, I have been in charge of this installation for 8 years," she said as they walked between the huge dishes. "I have never seen anything like this. Our equipment is perfect. Our staff is working normally. But 3 hours ago, our main computer systems received instructions to cease all outbound transmissions." "Instructions from where?" Harris asked. "That is the problem. The instructions came through our own secure channels with proper authorization codes. But no one in our chain of command sent them. The orders appeared to come from inside our own system." Harris looked up at the giant dishes, now silent and still. Someone with incredible access to Earth's most secure networks was implementing a plan that had been in development for a very long time. The coordination was too perfect, the knowledge too complete, for this to be the work of any normal organization. As night fell over Puerto Rico, Harris realized that Earth was not just going quiet. Earth was hiding The question was, hiding from what? Dr. Carl Watson stood before a room full of military officials and government leaders. The secure briefing room beneath the Pentagon was filled with tension as he displayed the latest communication data on the main screen. The pattern is now clear, Carl said, pointing to a map of the world marked with red dots. We have lost communication with over 200 installations in the past week. The shutdowns are moving from remote locations toward populated areas. But here is what makes this truly alarming. None of these facilities have been damaged or attacked. They are being turned off from within. General Frank Hudson leaned forward in his chair. Doctor, are you saying someone has compromised our most secure networks? Not compromised, General. Someone with legitimate access is implementing these shutdowns. The authorization codes are correct. The procedures are being followed exactly. But no one in our government is giving these orders. A murmur went through the room. Admiral Kevin Price, head of Naval Communications, raised his hand. We have confirmed the same thing with our submarine communication systems. 3 underwater arrays went silent yesterday. When we sent divers to check them, everything was working perfectly. The systems had simply been programmed to stop transmitting. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, the Vorthic Empire was holding an emergency council meeting. The great hall on their homeworld was filled with military commanders and scientists, all focused on the holographic display showing Earth. General Thaxmer addressed the assembled group. Our intelligence reports show that human communication signatures have decreased by 60% in the past 7 days. Their military networks remain active, but civilian communications are fading rapidly. Science advisor Krelmoth stood up. General, we have been monitoring human transmissions for 40 years. This behavior is completely unprecedented. Humans are naturally communicative. They broadcast everything: entertainment, news, personal messages. For them to go quiet suggests either massive internal conflict or preparation for external threat. But there are no signs of war on their planet, added Intelligence Chief Vex Rao. Their cities show normal activity. Transportation continues as usual. There are no refugee movements or military mobilizations that would indicate civil war. General, Thaxmer clicked his claws nervously. Then they are preparing for something else. The question is what? Captain Nina Foster floated in the observation deck of the International Space Station, looking down at Earth through the large window. From orbit, the planet looked completely normal. City lights sparkled across the night side like scattered diamonds. Air traffic moved in regular patterns. Ships crossed the oceans on their usual routes. But Nina knew that appearances could be deceiving. As the ISS communication officer, she had been monitoring the planet's electromagnetic signature for 3 years. Earth was normally a bright beacon of radio waves, television signals, internet traffic, and satellite communications. Now that beacon was getting dimmer every day. Houston, this is ISS, Nina spoke into her headset. I need to report another anomaly. The European communication. Satellites have reduced their output by 40% since yesterday. The voice from Mission Control crackled back. Nina, we are aware of the situation. Continue monitoring and report any further changes. Nina looked back down at Earth. Whatever was happening down there, it was big enough to worry everyone from NASA to the Pentagon. But from space, the planet looked peaceful and unchanged dot in the Crystalline Confederacy's monitoring station. Located in a hidden base on one of Jupiter's moons, observer Zarthik was becoming increasingly agitated. The Crystallines were a peaceful species that had been debating first contact with humanity for over 50 years. They believed humans had potential, but were concerned about human aggression and unpredictability. Council leader, Zarthik transmitted. To the home world, the human communication reduction has accelerated. They are now operating at less than half their normal transmission levels. Additionally, several of their artificial satellites have been deactivated. The response came back immediately. Are there signs of planetary conflict? None that we can detect. Their industrial activity continues normally. Population centers show no distress, but they are systematically reducing their visibility to space-based detection. This suggests they know they are being watched. Zarthik felt a chill run through his crystalline body. If humans knew about alien observation, why were they hiding instead of trying to make contact? President William Carter sat in the Oval Office, reading intelligence reports that seemed to come from a science fiction movie. The Director of National Intelligence, Dr. Helen Parker, sat across from his desk with a grim expression. Mr. President, we have confirmation from our allies around the world. Every major nation is experiencing the same phenomenon. Communication systems are being shut down in a coordinated pattern, but no government is responsible for the orders. President. Carter set down the reports. Helen, what you are describing is impossible. Someone would have to have access to the most secure networks of every country on Earth. That is exactly what appears to be happening, sir. The British lost contact with their North Sea monitoring stations this morning. The Russians report that their Siberian facilities have gone dark. The Chinese have lost communication with their South China Sea installations. This is happening globally, and it is too coordinated to be coincidence. The president stood up and walked to the window overlooking the White House lawn. Do we have any idea who might be capable of something like this? We have theories, but no solid evidence. Whoever is doing this has been planning for years, possibly decades. They know our systems better than we do. Colonel Steve Harris stood in the control room of the Nevada military installation, watching technicians work frantically at their computers. The base commander, Major Tony Mitchell, looked exhausted after 3 days of trying to understand what was happening to his facility. Colonel, we have identified the source of the shutdown commands, Major Mitchell reported. They are coming from our own central computer system. But here's the strange part. The commands are not unauthorized. They carry proper security clearances and follow correct procedures. It is as if someone with legitimate authority is implementing a plan we know nothing about. Harris examined the computer logs. The shutdown sequence was elegant and professional. Whoever had programmed this knew exactly what they were doing. Major, I want you to trace these commands back to their origin. Find out who has this level of access. We have tried, sir. The authorization codes lead back to a classified project that does not officially exist. Every time we try to dig deeper, we hit security walls that require clearances higher than anyone on this base possesses. Harris felt a growing sense of unease. Someone was operating within the United States military with authority that exceeded normal channels. The implications were staggering. In the asteroid belt, the Drake Thari War fleet was making final preparations for their assault on Earth. For 2 years, they had been moving slowly toward the Sol system, planning to harvest the planet's resources and enslave its population. Humans were primitive and defenseless, an easy target for conquest. Fleet Commander Gazrak studied the latest intelligence reports from their advanced scouts. The human world continues to broadcast its location? He asked. Yes, Commander. Their electromagnetic signature remains strong. They show no awareness of our approach, reported his intelligence officer. But the intelligence was already outdated. The Drake theory moved slowly and received information even more slowly. They did not yet know that Earth's voice was growing. Quieter every day. Agent Rick Coleman sat in his car outside a small consulting firm in Montana, watching the building through binoculars. For the past month, he had been investigating a series of mysterious advisors who had been providing technical assistance to government agencies around the world. The trail had led him here, to a company that officially did computer programming for small businesses. But Rick's investigation suggested they were involved in something much larger. Several employees of this company had been spotted at military installations just before communication systems started shutting down. Rick picked up his radio. "This is Coleman. I am beginning surveillance of the Montana facility. Something big is happening here, and I think these people are at the center of it." As the sun set over the small town, Rick realized he might have found the answer to the mystery that was puzzling governments around the world. But he also realized that the answer might be more dangerous than anyone imagined. Earth was not going silent by accident. Someone was deliberately making the planet invisible, and they had been planning this for a very long time. Agent Rick Coleman crept closer to the Montana building under the cover of darkness. The consulting firm looked ordinary from the outside, but his investigation had revealed something extraordinary. The same people who worked here had been spotted at military bases around the world just before communication systems went silent. Rick used his night vision equipment to peer through the windows. Inside, he could see people working at computer terminals that looked far more advanced than anything a small consulting company should have. The screens showed complex diagrams that looked like star maps and technical drawings of equipment he did not recognize. As he watched, a woman came to the window. She looked directly at him and smiled, as if she had been expecting him. Then she pointed toward the front door. Rick hesitated. This could be a trap, but he had come too far to turn back now. He walked around to the front entrance, his hand ready to draw his weapon. The door opened before he could knock. The woman who had seen him stood there, no longer smiling. She was about 40 years old, with short brown hair and calm eyes that seemed to see everything. "Agent Coleman, we have been waiting for you," she said. "My name is Dr. Ruth Campbell. Please come in. It is time you learned the truth." Rick followed her inside, keeping his hand near his gun. The building was much larger inside than it appeared from the outside. Hallways led in several directions, and he could hear the hum of powerful computers running somewhere deeper in the facility. "Before you ask," Dr. Campbell said as they walked, "yes, we are responsible for the communication shutdowns. And no, we are not working for any foreign government or terrorist organization." She led him into a conference room where 5 other people were waiting. They looked like ordinary Americans, engineers, scientists, computer specialists. But Rick could sense something different about them, a confidence that came from knowing secrets others did not. "Agent Coleman," said a man with gray hair and kind eyes, "I am Greg Adams, former NASA engineer. What I am about to tell you will sound impossible, but every word is true." Greg gestured toward a chair, and Rick sat down cautiously. 30 years ago, I was camping in the Canadian wilderness when I saw something crash in the forest. It was not a meteorite or airplane. It was a spacecraft. Rick started to speak, but Greg held up his hand. "Please, let me finish." Inside that spacecraft was a being from another world. He was dying, but he lived long enough to tell me something that changed everything. Earth is not alone, and we are not safe. Dr. Campbell activated a wall screen that showed a star map. The alien's name was Veltar. He was a scientist and explorer from a peaceful species called the Keepers. He had been studying our solar system when his ship was damaged by a solar storm. Veltar told us that several aggressive alien civilizations have been watching Earth for decades. Greg continued. They see humans as primitive and defenseless. 2 of these civilizations, the Drakethari and the Hegemony of Sorrow, are planning to invade Earth within the next few years. Rick felt his world shifting. This is impossible. If aliens existed, the government would know. "The government knows nothing," said another man, introducing himself as Dr. Carl Murphy. Veltar explained that these alien civilizations are very careful. They observe from a distance and strike only when they are certain of victory. Earth's constant radio and television broadcasts have been like a beacon, telling them exactly where we are and how defenseless we appear to be. Dr. Campbell brought up another display showing Earth's electromagnetic signature over time. For 30 years, we have been preparing for this moment. We infiltrated government agencies, technology companies, and research institutions, not to harm them, but to prepare Earth for what is coming. The communication shutdown is not random. Greg explained, "We are making Earth invisible to alien detection systems. While they think we are going quiet, we are actually listening to their communications and learning everything we can about their plans and weaknesses." Rick looked around the room at these ordinary-looking people who claimed to have been preparing for an alien invasion for 3 decades. "How many of you are there?" "About 2,000 people worldwide," replied Dr. Campbell. "Scientists, engineers, military personnel, government officials. All of us were recruited carefully over the years and given access to the knowledge Veltar shared with Greg. But we are not alone in this fight," added Dr. Murphy. "Veltar's people, the Keepers, and several other peaceful alien species have been secretly helping us. They want to see the aggressive civilizations stopped, but they are not warriors. They needed someone willing to fight." Greg activated another screen showing technical diagrams. "Using the technology and knowledge we received, we have been building defenses that the aggressive aliens do not expect. Hidden weapons platforms throughout the solar system. Advanced spacecraft that look like asteroids or space debris. Communication networks that use methods the enemy cannot detect." Rick stared at the diagrams. The technology looked decades ahead of anything he knew existed. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because Phase 2 is about to begin," Dr. Campbell said. "The communication shutdown was just the first step. Now we need to coordinate with world governments and military forces. The alien fleet's already approaching the outer solar system." She handed Rick a secure phone. "Call your superiors. Tell them you have found the source of the communication problems and that they need to send their highest-ranking officials to this location immediately." "How do I know you are telling the truth?" Rick asked. Greg smiled sadly. "Because in about 6 hours, the Drake Theory Advanced Scouts are going to arrive at the edge of our solar system. Our deep space monitoring systems will detect them. When that happens, everything we have told you will be proven true." Meanwhile, in the depths of space, the Drake Theory War Fleet was making its final approach to the Sol system. Fleet Commander Gazrak stood on the bridge of his flagship, reviewing the invasion plans one last time. "The human world should be completely defenseless," he told his officers. "Our intelligence shows a primitive species with basic technology. They fight among themselves and have no unified defenses." "What about their spaced assets?" asked his second-in-command. "Primitive satellites and a small space station." Gazrak replied dismissively. "Nothing that can threaten our forces. This will be the easiest conquest in the history of our empire." But as the Drake Theory fleet moved closer to Earth, their long-range sensors began detecting anomalies. The human electromagnetic signature was much weaker than expected. Several of their monitoring posts had gone silent. "Fleet Commander," reported the sensor officer, "we are detecting unusual readings from the inner solar system. The human communication patterns have changed significantly since our last intelligence update." Gazrak frowned. "Changed how?" "They appear to have reduced their transmissions by 70%. This could indicate internal conflict or system failures." "Excellent," Gazrak said. "If the humans are having technical problems, it will make our job even easier." But deep in the asteroid belt, hidden weapons platforms that looked like ordinary rocks were powering up their systems. On Earth's moon, concealed facilities were preparing to launch spacecraft that had been built using technology far beyond human capability. The trap was almost ready. Back in Montana, Rick Coleman was making the most important phone call of his career. As he spoke to his director at the FBI, explaining what he had discovered, alarms began sounding in military installations around the world. The deep space monitoring systems had detected something approaching from the outer solar system. Something big, something that was not supposed to exist. Dr. Campbell looked at Rick as he finished his phone call. Agent Coleman, welcome to humanity's real defense force. We have been waiting 30 years for this moment. What happens now? Rick asked. Greg Adams smiled, but there was no humor in it. Now we show these aliens that humans are not as defenseless as they think. Earth is not just going silent. Earth is preparing to fight back. General Frank Hudson stared at the massive holographic display in the newly revealed command center beneath the Nevada desert. 3 hours ago, he had been briefed on the most incredible secret in human history. Now he was standing in a facility that looked like something from a science fiction movie, watching real alien spacecraft approach Earth. General, the Drake 30 scout ships have crossed the orbit of Neptune, reported Dr. Martha Hayes from her position at the main control console. Our deep space sensors show 12 vessels, each about the size of a destroyer. Hudson looked around the command center. It was filled with technology that seemed decades ahead of anything the military officially possessed. Men and women in both civilian clothes and military uniforms worked side by side, coordinating Earth's defense. How long have you been building this? He asked Greg Adams, who stood beside him wearing a simple sweater, but somehow commanding the respect of everyone in the room. 30 years, Greg replied. We started with one crashed alien ship and the knowledge that came with it. We built, slowly, carefully, always staying hidden until the moment we would need to reveal ourselves. Admiral Susan Clark approached them, wearing a uniform Hudson did not recognize. General, I command the Terran Defense Fleet. We have 47 combat vessels positioned throughout the solar system, all disguised as asteroids or space debris. The enemy has no idea we exist. Hudson felt like he was living in a dream. How is this possible? How did you hide something this big from every government on Earth? We did not hide it from all governments, Dr. Hayes called out from her station. We recruited key people in every major nation. Military officers, scientists, engineers, politicians. People who understood that Earth needed defenders, even if their own governments were not ready to accept the truth. The main display showed a detailed map of the solar system, with red dots marking the approaching Drake 30 fleet and blue dots showing hidden human defenses. Hudson was amazed at how thoroughly Earth's secret defenders had prepared. The Drake 30 are expecting to find a defenseless world, Admiral Clark explained. Their intelligence is 30 years out of date. They think humans are still using primitive rockets and basic electronics. Captain Jack Turner stood on the bridge of the battleship Terra's Fury, hidden in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. His ship looked like a large rock from the outside, but inside it contained weapons and technology that would have been impossible just decades ago. Captain, we have visual contact with the Drake 30 scouts, reported his weapons officer, Lieutenant Pete Davis. They are moving in standard formation, no defensive postures. They really do think we are helpless. Jack studied the alien ships through his advanced sensors. They were sleek and dangerous looking, but their design showed they were built for attacking weak enemies, not fighting peers. How many crew members do we estimate per ship? Intelligence suggests about 50 per scout vessel, replied his communications officer, Ensign Amy Miller. The Drake 30 prefer small, fast ships for initial strikes. Then we are looking at about 600 enemy soldiers in the advance force, Jack calculated. Against 47 of our ships. I like those odds. The Terra's Fury was not alone. Throughout the asteroid belt and hidden in the shadows of moons and planets, other human warships waited for the signal to attack. Each ship was crewed by volunteers who had trained in secret for years, preparing for this moment. On the Drektheri flagship, Fleet Commander Gazrak was becoming increasingly puzzled by what his sensors were telling him. Navigation officer, confirm our position. Are we certain this is the correct solar system? Yes, Fleet Commander, this is definitely the Sol system. But the electromagnetic readings are much weaker than our intelligence indicated. Gazrak studied the data. The human homeworld is still there, correct? Yes, sir. The third planet shows normal thermal signatures and atmospheric composition, but their communication networks appear to have suffered major failures. Excellent, Gazrak said. If their technology is failing, they will be even easier to conquer. Order the scout. Ships to begin detailed scans of the inner system. But as the Drektheri scouts moved deeper into the solar system, they were being watched by sensors far more advanced than their own. Every movement was tracked, every communication intercepted and decoded. In the Nevada Command Center, Dr. Hayes coordinated the response. All units, this is control. The enemy is moving into Phase 2 positions. Prepare to implement Defense Protocol 7. Around the solar system, human ships began powering up weapons that had been built using alien technology and human innovation. Energy weapons that could slice through the strongest armor. Missile systems that could track targets across millions of miles. Defensive shields that could absorb massive amounts of damage. Captain Lisa Rodriguez commanded the hidden base on the far side of Earth's moon. Her facility looked like a research station from the outside, but it contained some of humanity's most powerful weapons. Captain, we have 12 enemy scouts entering the inner system, reported her tactical officer, Major Tony Garcia. They are heading directly for Earth, just as predicted. Lisa watched the display showing the approaching alien ships. Are our moon-based weapons ready? All systems are charged and ready, Captain. We can engage the moment they enter range. Good. Remember, we want to disable their ships if possible. We need prisoners and technology to learn more about their civilization. The first Drektheri scout ship to approach Earth detected something unusual about the planet's moon. Instead of the dead rock their intelligence described, their sensors showed energy signatures that suggested advanced technology. Fleet Commander. The scout captain reported back to Gazrak. The human moon is showing unexpected readings. There appears to be significant technological activity on the surface. Gazrak was confused. That is impossible. Our intelligence shows the humans have only basic space technology. They barely managed to land on their moon with primitive rockets. Sir, I am detecting what appears to be weapon systems, multiple launch sites, and energy projectors. Before Gazrak could respond, space around the Drektheri scouts suddenly filled with brilliant light. Energy beams lanced out from hidden positions throughout the solar system, striking the alien ships with surgical precision. The aliens had expected to find a defenseless world. Instead, they found themselves under attack by weapons they did not know existed, fired by an enemy they had completely underestimated. All ships, evasive maneuvers. Gazrak screamed over the communication system. We are under attack. How is this possible? 3 Drektheri scout ships were disabled in the first volley, their engines and weapon systems destroyed by precisely targeted energy beams. The remaining ships tried to retreat, but found themselves surrounded by human vessels that seemed to appear from nowhere. Captain Jack Turner watched from the bridge of Terra's Fury as his ship's camouflage system shut down, revealing the sleek battleship to enemy sensors. Around the solar system, dozens of other human ships were doing the same thing, dropping their disguises and showing the Drektheri what Earth's real defenses looked like. This is Captain Turner of the Terran Defense Fleet, he broadcast on all frequencies. Drake Theory vessels, you are surrounded and outgunned. Surrender immediately, and you will be treated according to the laws of war. The response came back in broken English. Impossible. Humans are primitive. You cannot have this technology. Jack smiled grimly. We had a good teacher, and we have been waiting 30 years to show you what humans can do when we are properly motivated. In the command center, General Hudson watched the tactical display with amazement. The Drake Theory scouts were completely overwhelmed. Human ships darted around them like fighters around bombers, their superior technology and coordination, making the battle completely one-sided. Dr. Hayes, are we receiving any communications from the main Drake Theory fleet? He asked. Yes, General. They are demanding to know what happened to their scouts. They seem very confused and frightened. Hudson looked at Greg Adams. What happens? Now? Greg's expression was serious. Now we send them a message they will never forget. It is time to let the galaxy know that Earth is no longer defenseless. 3 months after the first alien contact, Admiral Kevin Price stood before the United Nations General Assembly, which had been transformed into the Terran High Command. Representatives from every nation on Earth sat in the Great Hall, but they were no longer alone. Holographic displays showed alien ambassadors from 12 different species, all wanting to speak with humanity's leaders. Fellow humans, Admiral Price began, today marks a new chapter in our history. The galaxy knows we exist, and more importantly, they know we are not the weak, primitive species they thought we were. The main screen showed a star map with dozens of colored dots representing different alien civilizations. Our successful defense against the Drake Theory and hegemony of sorrow has sent shockwaves throughout known space. Species that have been oppressed for centuries are asking for our help. Others that plan to attack us are now begging for peace treaties. In the front row, President William Carter listened with amazement. 3 months ago, he had been dealing with mysterious communication failures. Now he was helping to lead humanity into a galactic community that most people never knew existed. Commander Ryan Bell sat in a conference room aboard the space station New Geneva, facing a group of alien diplomats unlike anything from Earth's science fiction movies. The Zephyrians were tall and thin with large eyes. The crystalline beings looked like living jewels. The Vorthics resembled giant lizards with intelligent expressions. Commander Bell, said Ambassador Kethfall of the Zephyrians, my people have been watching Earth for over 100 years. We always knew humans had potential, but we never imagined you could organize such an effective defense in secret. Ryan smiled politely. We had good motivation. When someone threatens your home, you find ways to protect it. The crystalline ambassador, Zarthik, spoke in a voice like musical chimes. The Drake Theory had conquered 7 species in the past 50 years. The hegemony of sorrow had enslaved entire star systems. No one had been able to stop them. Until now. What my colleagues are trying to say, added the Vorthic General Faxmer, is that humanity has done something unprecedented. You have defeated 2 of the galaxy's most aggressive empires, using technology and tactics they had never encountered before. Ryan looked at the alien diplomats. Each represented a species that had been living in fear of the aggressive civilizations that humanity had just defeated. What exactly are you asking of us? Protection, Kethval said simply. There are other aggressive species out there. The galaxy has been ruled by fear for too long. We want to form an alliance with Earth, a confederation of species dedicated to defending peaceful civilizations. On Earth, Dr. Angela Murphy worked in her new laboratory in Geneva, collaborating with alien scientists who had arrived as part of the first cultural exchange programs. The keeper scientist Velinara, a member of the same species that had originally warned humanity about the alien threat, was showing her technology that could revolutionize human medicine. Dr. Murphy, Velinara said in perfect English, Your species continues to amaze us. Most civilizations that receive advanced technology become dependent on it. Humans took what we gave you and improved upon it. Angela examined the medical scanner that could detect diseases at the cellular level. We have always been good at taking existing ideas and making them better. It is one of our strengths. Indeed, the Draketharian hegemony used the same weapons and tactics for centuries. They could not adapt when faced with something new. But humans are different. You constantly change and improve. Velinara activated another display showing star charts. There is something else you should know. Word of humanity's victory has spread throughout the galaxy. Several peaceful species have already begun moving their colonies closer to your solar system, hoping for protection. Others are asking to share technology and resources. Angela realized the implications. Earth is becoming the center of a new galactic community. Not just the center, Velinara corrected, the protector. The species that others look to for leadership and defense. Lieutenant Colonel Pete Johnson stood on the bridge of the Deep Space Patrol ship Terran Guardian, watching his crew work alongside alien advisors. His ship was part of the new Terran Deep Space Patrol, designed to protect the growing alliance of peaceful species. Colonel, we are receiving a distress signal from the Altarian colony in the Vega system, reported his communications officer, Ensign Lisa Carter. They are under attack by hegemony of Sorrow Raiders. Pete looked at his tactical display. The Vega system was 12 light-years away, but with the new faster-than-light engines developed from captured alien technology, they could be there in 6 hours. Set course for Vega system, maximum speed, Pete ordered, and send a message to the attackers. Tell them they are engaging ships under the protection of the Terran Alliance. They have one chance to withdraw before we arrive. His alien tactical advisor, a Vorthic named Drexpol, looked impressed. Colonel, 3 months ago, no one would have dared challenge hegemony raiders. Now they flee at the mention of human ships. Good, Pete replied. That is exactly what we want. The more afraid they are of us, the less likely they are to attack innocent people. The message came back from the hegemony ships within an hour. They were retreating immediately and would not return to Altarian space. Interesting, observed Drexpol. They did not even wait to see if you were serious about responding. The reputation of human military forces has spread very quickly throughout the galaxy. Back on Earth, Greg Adams and Dr. Ruth Campbell stood in the Montana facility that had started as a small consulting company and grown into the headquarters of humanity's secret preparation network. The room was now filled with representatives from dozens of countries and several alien species, all working together to coordinate the new galactic alliance. Greg, do you ever wonder what Veltar would think if he could see this? Ruth asked, looking at the bustling activity around them. Greg smiled sadly. I think he would be proud. He sacrificed his life to warn us about the danger, and we used that warning to not just save ourselves, but to help others as well. The Keepers were always protectors, added Velinara, who had joined them. Veltar would be honored to know that his final act created a new generation of protectors in the galaxy. A communication alert interrupted their conversation. Dr. Martha. Hayes appeared on the main screen from the Nevada Command Center. Greg, we are receiving reports from our deep space monitoring stations. A large fleet is approaching from the Andromeda Galaxy. Initial analysis suggests it is not from any species we have encountered before. Greg felt a familiar chill. Hostile? Unknown, but they are not responding to our standard greetings. Fleet size is estimated at over 300 ships. Ruth looked at Greg with concern. It seems our reputation has attracted attention from even farther away. Greg nodded grimly. Then we will do what humans do best. We will adapt, we will prepare, and we will protect those who cannot protect themselves. He activated the global communication system that linked all of Earth's defense forces. All stations, this is Adams. We have a new potential threat approaching from outside our galaxy. Begin implementing defense. Protocol Alpha. Contact our allies and inform them that the Terran Alliance stands ready to defend all member species. Around the world and throughout the solar system, humans and their alien allies began preparing for whatever was coming. The species that had once hidden in fear now stood together, ready to face any threat. Earth was no longer silent. Earth was speaking for every peaceful civilization in the galaxy, and the message was clear. Those who chose freedom and cooperation would be protected, while those who chose conquest and oppression would face the combined might of the Terran Alliance. The galaxy had a new protector, and humanity was just getting started.